On the week ahead of Heatwave, NXT presented its final show in the Performance Centre in Orlando. As part of the Championship Summit, Tony D would meet his challengers for the weekend, and Kendall Gray exchanged final words with Kalani Jordan, as well as much more. And we started things off with a big match, which was a weaponised steel cage match between Shogun Sugars and Dean Lennox. And Lennox tossed a trash can at Sugars as he enters the cage, starting an immediate brawl. Lennox relied on his surroundings early, tossing his rival repeatedly into the steel. Sugars found a way to fire back, though, trapping Lennox in a trash can, which he attacked with a trash can lid and missile drop kick. Lennox fought free and dropped Sugars back onto a chair in picture-in-picture break. Out of the break, Lennox fired up, tossing Sugars into the cage and flying out the corner with a fast crossbody, whipping Lennox into a kendo six, followed by face planting Lennox into the steel chair. Lennox responded with a spine buster onto a trash can for a near fall. Lennox began targeting the leg of Sugars using a steel chair, and Sugars aimed back to target the left knee. Sugars tried to send Lennox through a table with a sunset flip powerbomb, but his knee gave out. Sugars then kept fighting the limp, and in final desperation went all the way into the top of the cage for a crossbody to seal the victory. This was by far the best these two have looked in singles action, especially against each other. Planned matches, especially with this preset weapons, give them structure in the standard matches lacked. The aggression of Lennox is far more effective when he's swinging chairs and tossing opponents into a cage rather than a usual match, and shows some impressive ingenuity throughout, combining weapons with the cage that sold intellect. The match also gave Sugars a chance to lean into his ability to sell pain, highlighting his resilience while the crowd cheered him on. The ending was hampered by an early table break, but Sugars soldiered on and still hit a nice top of the cage crossbody, even if it didn't look as devastating as planned. This should be the end for the rivalry now. Sugars doesn't need to go through Griffin or James. He needs to move on. Let him start building up a resume that can allow him to challenge for a North American Championship while Darkseid find a new target. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Jada Parker then asked Teal Hale to stay back before she headed the ring to face down Natty. Natty explained she came to NXT to fight Miss Parker, but saw Jada had grown soft and failed in her potential. Jada called out Natty that tried to break her, but she only fired up a woman that was ready to embarrass her. The two agreed to a fight at Heatwave in a submission match. It's far too rare in the NXT Women's Division to see T-Stars just talk about interaction, especially without quickly turning to violence. This made the fairly basic promo stand out. Miss Parker rode a supportive crowd to talk her way through Natty, selling her confidence, even though the low-key legend is favourite for this type of match. Jada came out this saying there's no way her opponent could make her tap out again. Jada should win against Natty, and this victory should really set her up to go further in NXT. As we then got Kiana Carver versus Cam Hendricks. Carver teased an early inside cradle, then took the best offense of Hendricks and smiled. The Showtime kick could not even keep Carver down for two. A pair of released German suplexes followed by a pounce sent Hendricks to the floor. Showtime poked Carver in the eye, but as the ref talked to Carver, Rook led out Hendricks with a running crossbody. Carver then followed up with a bridging Fisherman suplex for the victory. This was good and bad to this match. The positive was Carver looked great. He shrugged off Hendricks' best offense and showed a growing variety of moves in his arsenal. It feels like Carver's fully landed in NXT and has natural growth in the company that makes him an easy choice to win gold soon. The negative was a rush and flat finish made Carver needed Rook's help to seal the win in what she was dominating. It's also noticeable that Carver and Hendricks are a bad pair with limited in-ring chemistry. This is definitely not a match to quickly revisit. Hendricks can continue feuding with Rook, while Carver should look to the champs that leave Heatwave with the gold. While big names challenging Tony D, Carver feels like a better long-term program bet for the NXT Championship. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. We then got Zarya versus Callie Armstrong, and they began quickly testing each other's strengths. The Women's North American Champion was too much for the former Evolve champ. Instead of strength, though, it was speed that gave Callie an edge as she socked Zarya outside and caught her with a springboard crossbody into the PIP break. Back from it, Callie kept control with an explosive suplex to two exchange strikes in the centre that ended with Callie standing tall. Callie then set up the Callie connection, but Zarya countered into a spear, followed by an F5, only for Callie to roll through into a sunset flip for the shock victory. A great showcase for Callie. Zarya let the NXT newcomer looked like a real threat by pushing Callie to her most dynamic NXT performance so far. This was not just a showcase of the explosive power, it was about the athleticism of one of NXT's most intriguing stars. Callie didn't actually need to beat Zarya, who was being protected well lately, but she will add more unpredictability to the Heatwave unification match. The best bet is for Zarya to take all the gold, but Callie's also a priority star. Zarya could easily go after the NXT Championship instead. So yeah, I'll be intrigued to see where we go. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. We then got Birthright v Sean Legacy, DVD, Noam Dar and Romeo Moreno, and the action quickly picked up as Birthright could not contain the speed and ferocity of their opponents. Connors managed to trip Romeo up, though pulling him outside and place planting him into the floor into the break. Birthright continued to dominate until Romeo back from the break until he managed to flip past everyone and make the hot tag to Dirks, who dived onto Birthright, then tagged onto Legacy, set up a springboard 450 on Spax, but King broke up the pin. Dempsey and Dar tagged in before before the babyfaces began an explosive comeback, diving onto the floor. In the chaos, Dempsey caught the Scottish Supernova, were bridging Regal Plex for the victory. A formulaic tag match, but continued to highlight the impressive rising athletes in the NXT undercard. In particular, DVD and Romeo were playing throughout, creating a whole new highlight reel of moves just for this contest. It was nice to see Birthright do more than just survive, given their significant experience though. Instead, it felt like Dempsey survived by out-wrestling Dahl one-on-one in the last match, which does not do much for Birthright as a team. Still, at least the right group won for the moment, hopefully setting up more focused matches for the future between these groups. One of the babyfaces in the match should be the one to finally dethrone Lexis King as the Speed Champion. Overall, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. The AAA Cruiserweight title was on the line with Rey Fenix defending against EK Prosper, and despite a confident start from Wwenxt, Prosper flipped through the grip of the champion, sent him to the floor with a dropkick, followed up with a moonsault to the floor to send this match to a break. The champ fired out of the break, only to get countered again by Prosper, including a springboard leg drop for a near fall. Wwenxt fired back with Adios Amigo into a diving crossbody and frog splash for his own near fall. Prosper countered a rolling cutter with a suplex, but bounced the champion to a handspring cutter. Prosper blocked the Mexican muscle buster and planted the champ with a top rope head scissors before Fenix dodged the moonsault, followed by a corner and scary super kick and Mexican muscle buster for the win. Despite positioning this as a big main event, it never really felt Prosper was ready for the spotlight given to him. Fenix is one of the best luchadors in the world, and obviously he had a much less experienced star going up against him to make it a bit of a struggle. This was little drama to the finish, as Fenix was not going to lose, of course, 1 week away from that big match against Penta. It might have been best to keep this shorter and tighter so that Prosper has more to learn before he can contest one of those top titles. So overall, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. Kendall Gray then arrived first for the Heatwave Summit with Ren Sinclair promising the women's champion was a fighting champion. Jordan arrived followed by Zara and Kelly Armstrong, all promising victory at Heatwave, as Grace and Water interacted to talk up the talent in the arena before telling him that it was all time for them to let him talk. Tony D told Water that he would fail like he always does. Montana arrived to declare himself a fighter, not talking, starting a brawl involving security. Zilla Fatu arrived late, raising the NXT Championship, while Gray and Ren held the women's North American Speed Championships. While the crowd popped for Zilla and NXT got a nice final shot, possible win the standing tour. This is a mess that didn't really do anyone any favours. Waller quickly lost steam due to the messy build, and Jet ran QC to the tour at the end, but most of the challengers had a forgettable 10 seconds to speak on a night that needs to solidify most stars. Even if the goal was self-earned on the Chaos NXT, it didn't really serve as a big selling point for Heatwave. It was just the same old NXT standard overloading we've kind of seen without really any substance. Overall, this week's episode of NXT gets a 5 out of 10 for me. I would say it was underwhelming. Beyond Natty and Jade Parker maximising their limited minutes to sell their feud ending submission match, nothing really got a boost or hype from this show. Kelly Armstrong and Zararia delivered in the ring, but she may have necessarily complicated a simple story between her and Ren. Ray Phoenix and Prosper delivered an over-the-top main event that didn't really connect to anything on the PLE to come, and the same can be said of Sugars and Lennox. The main hype for the night came from the main event cast, and that was a mess that showed the kind of main angles for Heatwave have been a bit rushed in my view.
That's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, follow us on our socials, link in the description below for daily wrestling news, meme and content. Subscribe to our other channels on screen right now, that'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace out.